Vaishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srila His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gaura. Can you crank up the volume?
Yeah.
So this is part 2 of this seminar on the 4 regulative principles of freedom. Our reference verse is the first canto, 17th chapter, text number 38. This is Punishment and Reward of Kali, text 38. Is many people ask where in the scriptures are these regulative principles talked about, and it is in this chapter, text 38, where Sutta Goswami is talking about. Sutta uvacha vyartitastada tasmai sthanani kalaye dadau dhyutam panam striya shuna yatra dharmaschaturvidha. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution and animal slaughter were performed. So last week we did part 1. We talked about the foundational principles. We talked about no meat eating, or the pillar of religion being mercy. We'll continue from here on. These 4 principles are called principles of freedom. And actually we say no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. So someone will ask, if you're putting restrictions, how is it these talk about freedom? How are they meant to give us freedom? So it seems like an oxymoron, or paradoxical statement. On one hand, you're putting restrictions, and then you're calling them principles of freedom. So it's described that there are 2 ways of looking at freedom. One is, suppose in the prison, you give a criminal the permission to move about freely within the prison and say, now you're a free person. Is it true? Is it freedom? It is freedom in one sense, but still in the prison. But if the prisoner follows all the rules of the prison carefully, then he has actual freedom. He can be released from prison. So, what is important is we're talking freedom of the soul from the bondage of the material body. This is real freedom. Within the body, the embodied soul is not free. It is free to go to hell, but it's not free in the real sense of the term. We're talking of freedom means free from karma bandhana, free from the bondage of fruitive activities, free from the bondage of having to take up another material body, free from the materialistic desires, free from illusion. This is real freedom. But that freedom, so-called freedom, that perpetuates, that continues, that extends one's illusion is not freedom. So these 4 principles allow for a framework of life where there is the freedom of the soul from its material engagement. So they're called principles of freedom. Regulative principles of freedom. And life must have some regulation. Otherwise, there's no fun in life. Suppose, consider something where there were no rules, like a game of cricket, or soccer, or baseball, or basketball, or something, chess. Suppose there were no rules. There is no concept of a home run, no concept of a single, no concept of 3 strikes. There's no rules for the game. And there is no game. You enjoy the game because there are some rules to the game. Right? Similarly, life becomes meaningful when there are rules or regulations. Another reason to have regulations is when there are regulations, they allow for society or an individual to be progressive. Progressive in a particular direction. For example, take a river. A river is regulated by its banks. This bank and that bank. The eastern bank and the western bank. The northern bank and the southern bank. There are banks. And these banks allow the river to flow in a particular direction. If there were no banks, the river would just be spread out. Similarly, there is a flow of life. And if there are no regulations, it doesn't allow us to progressively move through life. Some people might say, oh, I'm free to jump off the cliff. Sure, we have that freedom. But guess where we go? Down the cliff. We go down, and then we go up. Right? We go down, we go up, and then we go down to hellish condition. So we should be careful how life is conducted. So a spiritual life stands on the foundation of these 4 pillars. Pillar of mercy, tolerance or austerity, cleanliness, and truthfulness. And as the followers of the Hare Krishna movement, Srila Prabhupada taught us how to live life in such a way that these 4 pillars are sustained. Mercy is enhanced or cultivated by following the principle of no meat eating. Austerity is cultivated by following the principle of no intoxication. Cleanliness is cultivated by the principle of no illicit sex. And finally, truthfulness is cultivated by the principle of, or the practice of, no gambling. In Kali Yuga, these three of these 4 have already been broken, and the 4th is in a very precarious condition. The 4th pillar is the pillar of truthfulness. So this is just summary from last week. And we talked about no meat eating, and we discussed from a biological, sociological, economical, and moral perspective why meat eating is detrimental. It is a very, very inefficient system of cultivating or extracting the necessary protein or food required for sustaining life. We also talked about no meat eating means one might think, hey, I should be a vegetarian. And we discussed that yes, being a vegetarian is much, much better, but still it is not free of karmic reactions. So the best form of, the best procedure for accepting food is to accept Krishna Prasadam. That is, everything that we acquire, we first offer to Krishna and then eat. These are principles from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, texts 12 and 13. Where Krishna says, food that is accepted without sacrifice, the person who eats like that is a thief, and they're eating only sin. So it's very important that we cultivate the habit of eating or not eating anything that's not offered or offerable to Krishna. Then we began discussing that no meat eating is just a fundamental practice, fundamental principle for the pillar of mercy. But actual mercy is cultivated by doing something for the benefit of others. So if we are following the regulative principle carefully, so now this is new subject matter from last week, that to cultivate mercy or to sustain the pillar of mercy means to dedicate one's life in such a way that we become instruments of, we facilitate the Krishna consciousness of others. There are many persons who think that the purpose of life is to help others. This is not a wrong principle, but it's also not correct. It requires a little fine-tuning. Generally, this is this aphorism apparently that people follow. It's not real. It's not a true aphorism. But people, especially coming from India, have this idea: Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. This is not a true aphorism. Actually, this is not correct. People think that serving humanity means serving God. It sounds like a compassionate principle, and it is to some degree compassionate, but it is not compassionate from the point of view of the spirit soul. From a spiritual perspective, it's not compassion. This is the same argument that Lord Krishna defeated when Arjuna gave him that reason for not fighting. He said, compassion. I want to be compassionate. And Krishna says, your compassion has no meaning unless you see it from the vantage point of a spirit soul. Spiritual compassion means, well, first let's talk about what is material compassion. Material compassion means, oh, this particular person or living being or animal or whatever is suffering, let me do something. And what I do depends upon my vision of who I am and who that living being is. Generally, we see others as, oh, they are poor, or they're handicapped, or they don't have something, I have something that they don't have. Let me share this. So that's material. That's material because one is not clear about one's identity. Spiritual compassion, all we need is the same arrangement, just a fine-tuning of the conception with which we serve others. So that fine-tuning is, I am a part of God, Krishna. This living entity is also part and parcel of Krishna, and Krishna will be pleased if I serve them. That's part A. Part B is, let me serve in such a way that that living entity who's the beneficiary of my service will feel a connection with Krishna. This is real service. So generally we give this example. Suppose a child is separated from the parent. Someone may say, oh, this child is crying, let me give him a lollipop or some ice cream. So that's nice. But have we really taken care of what the child's need is? No, we haven't addressed that need. The best way to address the need of the child is to take the child to the parent. That's the best service one can do. Similarly, in this material world, we are all children of Krishna, separated from Krishna. So serving others means making that connection or assisting in making that connection happen again. This is real mercy, or this is spiritual compassion. So some people feed the poor, give them clothes. Well, this is nice. But what are we feeding the poor? If you feed the poor a McDonald's double hamburger or something, you're actually doing more harm to that person from a karmic perspective. We might say, we'll only give them khichdi. Even that is karmically not beneficial. The real benefit is to give Krishna prasadam. Because by prasadam, it not only nourishes the body, but it awakens or contributes to the awakening of the soul in relation to Krishna. This is real service. So living a life of mercy means considering how to do this, how to help others in their connection with Krishna. So what we have are some assets. And mercy means not just thinking about it, that's also nice, but utilizing these assets. So here are the assets that we have. We have mind, body, and words. Kaya, body, manaha, mind, and vacha, words. One should use these three in the service of others. One should use one's body in serving others in this way, to render service such that the other person's Krishna consciousness is awakened, using the body for it. Meaning, actually, let's say, driving people to the temple, or doing some service for them such that their experience of Krishna consciousness comes into being. Using the body for it. Using our mind is to think of different ways by which we can expand or share the knowledge of Krishna consciousness with others. This is the proper use of the mind. Another is to pray to Lord Chaitanya, to pray to the spiritual master, to the parampara, to let that mercy descend into the lives of others. It's nice to pray for mercy to come into our lives, that's very nice. But it should also be that it should be for others. Generally, the material world is full of competition. The more I get, the happier I am, because I'm better off than others. This is material. Spiritual is let others benefit. Let them get Krishna's mercy. And if Krishna would like to use me as an instrument in that, fantastic. Otherwise, fantastic. But let them benefit. Let others benefit. Praying for others is very important. So I said that I'm going to talk about these principles with a little, I guess, bias or bent towards living as grahastas, because practically everyone here is a grahasta. So within a family unit, using the body, mind and words, the husband prays to Krishna for the upliftment and satisfaction of the family within Krishna consciousness. The wife prays to Krishna for proper situation and protection of the husband in Krishna consciousness. This is serving each other in a Krishna-centered way. Words. It is described that this is from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says the austerity, there are austerities, and he talks about body, mind, and words. Austerity of words is a whole list. To speak the truth, to speak it palatably. We can always speak the truth, and it can come out so bitter. Sometimes it's required, but in principle, truth must be spoken palatably. And I'll also tell you when it should be spoken unpalatably. Words must be spoken such that it is uplifting for another person, that it does not cause harm to others, and that it is beneficial. If you don't have anything beneficial to say to someone, then the best thing to do is to shut up. Actually, we benefit others by shutting up than to say something and cause more harm. In the 11th canto, Krishna describes to Uddhava that there are two ways of harming somebody. One is by shooting an arrow. And he said, if you shoot someone with an arrow, you can remove the arrow, put some ointment and medication, and the wound will heal. Another way is to hurt them by our words, and there is no ointment or balm for it, and those wounds never heal. Wounds inflicted by our harsh words can never be healed. People remember that. In fact, people will forgive. We will forgive someone if they hit us. But we cannot forgive or forget harsh words, hurtful words. So speech must be used for benefiting someone. The only time we don't speak truth that has to be necessarily palatable is when speaking truth about Krishna, meaning spiritual truths. Spirituality is the only truth with a capital T, but that doesn't have to be spoken in a palatable way. That can be said in a way that can be a little shaking. Someone can be shaken up. For example, when Krishna speaks to Arjuna, he says, Asochan Anvasochastam Pragyamadam Shabhashase. He's not speaking in a palatable way. He's telling him a fool. Nam Shochanti Pandita. You're talking very nicely, but you're not. You think you're a Pandit? You're not. But in general, we have these assets, body, mind, and words. Then there are other assets that must be utilized for living a life of being merciful. Krishna describes in the 10th canto, he glorifies the trees in Vrindavan, that they are offering wonderful service. There's a very nice verse. Etavad janma safalyam dehinam iha deyeshu pranayar arthayar dhiya vacha shreya acharan sada. So yesterday's Bhagavatam class we were discussing this. But this is important. This verse appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. And this verse and the verse after, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we quote it quite often. Bharata bhumile Vile Manushya Janmayad Janma Sarthaka Kari Kara Para Udkar. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. So these two verses are used as couplets. Used as a couplet. So first, it says Janma Safalyam. Safalyam means success. One's life will be considered successful if one uses one's prana, one's life force, one's energy, artha, one's wealth, dhiya, one's intelligence, and vacha, one's words, in the service of others. So as grahastas, we must be carefully thinking, are we doing these things? Are we using our body, mind, words, and life's energy, our wealth, our intelligence, in the spreading off, in the expansion of Krishna consciousness within our family, community, society in general, not just human species, but all other living entities. Now, individually, we don't have the capacity of benefiting all living entities. We don't have the capacity, we don't have the service or the chance as well. But any living entity that we come across, can we, in that exchange, leave behind a beneficial experience? Like we talk of book distribution, but otherwise we call it conscious connections. This is Vaisheshika Prabhu's term. Consider this, living a life of mercy means whoever we meet, human being, animal, plant, insect, whatever living entity that we have somehow come in contact with, in that little contact, can we do something that's beneficial for their Krishna consciousness? Considering like this is the life of living, a life of mercy. So you see, these principles are not just the externalities. Are you following the regulative principles? Yes, I'm not eating any meat. Very good, very good. That's just the beginning. I'm trying to impress upon us that these are broader and much deeper essences by which one lives one's life. So that's mercy. The second was any particular choice? Any order you want to follow? Cleanliness. Okay. Shaucham. Cleanliness, Prabhupada described, cleanliness is next to godliness. Krishna, in the Ishopanishad, Sri Ishopanishad, is described as Shuddham Apapaviddham, clean and uncontaminated, or cannot be contaminated. Apapaviddham. There is nothing that Krishna can do or does by which he contacts something unclean or sinful. The word used in English is reproachable. Shuddha. Krishna's heart is always clean. So naturally, whatever activity he does is always clean. Even if he is stealing the garments of the gopis, seemingly it looks lusty, but it is considered the cleanest. Shuddha. That's because the heart is clean. As conditioned living entities, we start from our default condition is an unclean heart. Unclean heart means a heart that is influenced by or directed by ignorance, avidya. Ignorance of our identity. We don't know who we are. And the sense of identity we have is on the basis of material identification. Our identity is either based on this body or some mental state. I'm Indian, I'm a man, I'm a father, or I'm happy, I'm intelligent, I'm very sad, like that. This is called avidya. And as long as avidya exists, the heart cannot be clean. Clean means dark. And when the heart is enlightened, it is considered clean. The conditioned living entity is also influenced by modes of passion and ignorance. Ignorance means no aspiration for anything. In passion, one has a lot of desires. In goodness, one has knowledge. And in transcendence, one has service attitude. So in ignorance and passion, the heart is disturbed by, agitated by, influenced by these things. Intense desires, or just not motivated by anything. Motivated into things that are even more harmful or degrading, for example. So, the idea is the human form of life is to progressively move up in consciousness towards a state of enlightenment, towards the mode of goodness, and ultimately to transcendence. And so it is required that one's external environment and internal environment begin to become clean. The external environment is clean or becomes clean by lifestyle changes. Basically, what's inside manifests outside. Whatever our heart, whatever the state of our consciousness, that will be the state of the environment we are living in. If the heart is influenced by mode of goodness, the environment will be in goodness. If the heart is in ignorance, or consciousness is influenced by ignorance, the environment will be in ignorance. Our activities will be in ignorance. Our desires, our knowledge, determination, the food that we eat, the activities that we perform, the austerities that we pick up, the sense of charity that we have, all of this will be influenced by ignorance. So external cleanliness means an environment that allows for or facilitates this enlightenment, makes it easy for enlightenment. So the Vedas describe taking a bath twice a day, at least once a day. Once in 2 days is still better than not bathing at all. But bathing at least twice a day, at least one time in a day. Wearing clean clothes, speaking in a refined language, and actually cultivating thoughts that are refined. Because thoughts manifest as words. What's the matter? You're uncomfortable? Okay. Thoughts, whatever is within this mind, manifests as words and activities. So the external environment needs to be kept clean, organized, clean. We use the word regulated. And internally, we clean our consciousness through the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. These two are very important. Therefore, we recite this verse very often. Actually, before we do Achaman, the idea of Achamana is to cleanse ourselves. And it says, Om Apavitra Pavitrova Sarva Avastham Gatopiva Ya Smarit Pundari Kaksham Sarvahya Abhyantara Suchi. Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. This is how we purify ourselves before we step on the altar, before we begin cooking, before we do anything, devotional activity, before it starts, we have to clean ourselves from inside and outside. So this verse describes that one may be in any condition, apavitra, impure, pavitrova, or pure condition, or in any state of mind or being. But Yasmare, one who remembers the lotus-eyed Lord Vishnu, he becomes suchi, becomes clean. So we remember Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. So the pillar of cleanliness is sustained by what we say, no illicit sex. So first of all, illicit sex means sex that's not legalized. So prostitution, in this verse, the word prostitution is used. So first let's start broad and then we'll narrow down. Why? Why is sexual engagement discouraged? When people argue that it is natural. The birds do it, the bees do it, animals do it. Why, if it's so natural, why are you telling us not to do this? Because first of all, we are not neither birds nor bees. We're meant to be human beings. And human beings have a different or higher responsibility that other living entities don't have or don't have access to. Human beings have one responsibility. What is that? To get out of this realm of repetitive birth and death. The very fact that birth means that there is sexual activity by which birth happens. To break that cycle is necessary. That's one reason. Second, the very act of sexual contact works counterintuitively to the whole idea of spiritual cultivation. In spiritual cultivation, in Bhagavad Gita, what's the first lesson that Krishna speaks about? Very first lesson. Anyone? First principle of spiritual life is
God's body. I'm not the body, I'm the spirit soul.
Very good. You're not this body. Dehinasmin yatha dehe. Kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhiras tatrana muhyate. That's the first principle. I am not this body, I am spirit soul. The act of sexual contact works directly opposite to that understanding. Because in the act of sexual contact, the whole absorption, consciousness is completely, enamored by this full conviction that this body is important. And this body is very attractive because it is formed and shaped in a particular way. So for the male, the female body is attractive. For the female, the male body is attractive. And now, different permutations of that in modern society. So what happens is, by sexual contact, the consciousness is only interested in the body. It doesn't consider this is a spirit soul actually, and all I'm embracing is a lump of matter. So Prabhupada describes, or our Shastras describe, what is the body comprised of? It's a bag, very nicely put together bag that contains bones, flesh, mucus, bile, stool, urine, hair. A little nice packaging is nice, attractive. It smiles at you and all and says things. But philosophically speaking, it's a bag of matter. It is like embracing, suppose someone, let's not say this example for the ladies. Suppose someone's garbage is nicely packed in a very attractive box, nice ribbon on, and hands it to us. Wow, So Prabhupada narrates the story of liquid beauty. How many know the story of liquid beauty? Even if one person doesn't know, it means it should be repeated. Rajak, do you know the story of liquid beauty? Okay. There was a man who was very attracted to a prostitute, to a woman. And he petitioned, "Can you please satisfy my desires?" For a long time he was petitioning her. So finally she said, "All right, come in 3 days and I will fulfill your desires." So he got all excited. He was already anticipating 3 days of waiting. Yugayitam nimeshena found it. Even the minute of absence felt like 12 years or more for him. So on the day of the meeting, he came all nicely manicured, all prepared for the wonderful evening with this woman. But in the 3 days, what she was doing is she was taking a lot of purgatives and laxatives. And so she was throwing up like anything and passing diarrhea or loose motions like anything. And she collected it all in buckets for him. And she had become very... He said, "Are you the same very beautiful woman I met? And I've been really thinking about saying, what happened? Why are you like this?" She said, "You were very attracted to my beauty, so I've collected it for you. Only for you. You're welcome to come and take it." So he was not sure what she was. He said, "Oh, don't speak in such enigmatic, cryptic language." He said, no more cryptic, come inside." And she gave him the buckets of vomit and stool and said, "This is all it is. That's inside the body that you're very attracted to." So he became detached from her. He said, "No, I can't be with you." So the absorption in matter, for a conditioned soul, the highest expression of that absorption in matter is in sexual contact or sexual activity. So the Vedas say, do not engage in it. Now, some people say, "Oh, but we are married. And isn't what marriage is all about this, isn't it?" Answer is no. Marriage is not all about unrestricted sexual activity. So in Sanskrit, married people are put in 2 categories, either of 2 categories. One category is called grihastha, another category is called grihamedhi. The word medhi means stick or rod. Actually, that rod, medhi, is the rod by which you engage bulls in activity. That's what medhi means. So bulls that are domesticated, they are tied to medhi and they're made to walk round and round. You've seen, at least in movies or someplace, bulls walk all day round and round for grinding or seed or grain or extracting oil. So what happens is at the end of the day, the bulls have gone round and round and round and they feel they worked very hard, but actually they haven't gone anywhere. So Grihamedhi life means busy and busy and busy, but going nowhere, spiritually speaking. And for Grihamedhi, the center of all activities is the house and the activities within the house. Shopping, decorating, sexual activity, like that. That is Grihamedhi life. The scriptures talk about Grihastha life. Generally, when someone is married, we say Grihastha. That's not true. Married just means married. What is the center of their activities determines whether it is Grihastha or Grihamedhi. If the center of their activities is the house and household affairs, then they are called Grihamedhi. If the center of their household affairs is Krishna and Krishna's service, they are called Grihasthas. The word stha means situated, and it's called ashrama. Even Grihastha life is called ashram. Ashram means a place of spiritual cultivation. So wife and husband are meant to be partners in serving Krishna, not for each other's enjoyment. Because the Grihamedhi will think of everything as my house, my wife. They're cooking something with everyone's coffee. My house, my wife, my car, my money, my enjoyment, my happiness. And a Grihastha will think of Krishna's house, Krishna's money, Krishna's property, Krishna's service. So seemingly the activities might look similar, but the focus is different. The center is different. So illicit sex definitely means sex outside marriage. And according to Bhagavad Gita or the Vedas, it also means sex that has no purpose. So the actual purpose or outcome of sexual activity is conception. Having a child is a natural outcome of sexual activity. So people like one aspect of this activity and don't like the other aspect. It's called half-hand logic, ardhakukuti nyaya. Half-hand logic, Prabhupada describes as there was a man who had a hen that laid golden eggs. He very much liked the back end of the hen because that end gave golden eggs. But he didn't like the front end because that's the expense side. He had to feed the hen. He said, I don't like to feed her, but I want the golden egg. So he thought the best thing would be to cut the hen in half and throw away that end that eats and keep the end that gives. So Prabhupada says this is called ardhakukuti nyaya, half-hand logic. So engaging in sexual activity without wanting the responsibility of a child is called ardhakukuti nyaya, half-hand logic. I like this aspect of that activity, but I don't like that aspect. So there is this whole idea of contraception, artificial means, and it is described that is dharma viruddha. It's against religious conduct. Therefore, the scriptures describe that one must engage in sexual activity only for the sake of procreation. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes dharma aviruddha kama asmi. I am sexual contact outside of irreligion or within religious things. By this way, the Grihastha learns to take responsibility for his or her activities. And a person who takes responsibility, that's very good. They can have many children. Even 100 is all right. But a person who cannot take that responsibility or does not know how to take that responsibility or doesn't care, then they should not engage in such activity. Otherwise, such sexual cultivation corrupts or contaminates the consciousness. One's whole absorption will be on how I can fulfill this particular desire. And this is not just the activity particularly. It's not just the sexual activity that is considered illicit. Thinking about it, planning about it, talking about it, of course engaging in it, all of this is considered illicit activity because it corrupts the mind. Corrupts the mind in this way, right? I'm repeating the same thing again and again. It corrupts the mind in this way. It brings our absorption into the bodily condition of life. So the way to get out of this is, or the way to practice cleanliness is to live in an environment of mutual respect for the husband or the wife. If the husband sees the wife as nothing but a machine for his sexual appetite, then it's disrespectful. Because the wife is far more than a body. Or the husband is far more than a body. Grihastha life means respect, honoring the partnership. And honoring the partnership, what are we in partnership for? There's a purpose. And the purpose is upliftment, spiritual upliftment. So very important, very, very important to cultivate this no illicit sex principle. By sexual activity, which includes all of this planning, thinking, discussing, engaging in, etc., all of this, it takes the conditioned soul farther and farther from Krishna. And we are already very far from Krishna. To do something that takes us farther is very much against the self-interest of the soul. So Prahlad Maharaj says, Nate vidu swarthatibhi Vishnu. They don't know that the real self-interest is Vishnu. Durashaya ye bahirarthamamina. So by Dura Ashaya means contaminated desires. They become inimical or they become callous to Vishnu. And they follow this path. Andhayatandhay upaniya namana. They follow a path leading to darkness. Tepisha tantrayam urudamani baddha. And they are not just voluntarily walking like that, they are pulled by material energy far away from Krishna. The outcome of such life is that one will take birth again in some low species. So it's very detrimental. One might say, as natural as it is. What is natural is not just the instinct for sexual contact, but also the outcome, that is childbirth or conception. That's as natural. What people do is the unnatural part, the artificial part is to separate the cause and effect. And you discover that that is harmful. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to leave. Just any questions? Let's go slowly if you like. Any questions? Comments? Yeah.
Should we use the mic or should I just say it?
Sure.
Okay. So you
Do
guys.
you need a mic? Sorry.
Hare Krishna. So you mentioned about in order to reach the transcendental goodness, you have to progress through the different modes. And you were saying the mode of goodness is characterized by knowledge, and then transcendental goodness is devotional service, I think. So then, in order to reach transcendental goodness, do you first have to have like a certain level of knowledge, or can you? I don't know. Do you understand.
Yeah. The answer is the only knowledge is I'm not this body. That's a good start.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be realization, just knowledge. But that knowledge, if it is not cultivated, then it doesn't remain. One very quickly degrades to passion or ignorance, and so then it becomes inaccessible. Knowledge becomes inaccessible. So I am not this body is the platform for I am a servant of Krishna. Even if that is not there, then we have Agyata Sukruti, some benefit where some service to a Vaishnava or Krishna is rendered unknowingly. But Agyata Sukruti is not ticket back to Godhead. Agyata Sukruti is the ticket to proper service. So that's the only knowledge that's required. I'm not this body. Even more, if you want to simplify that, the knowledge that's required to go to devotional service is called Adam Shraddha, the beginning faith. Some little voluntary attraction to do some service to a Vaishnava. The attraction doesn't even have to be strong. It's just very, very, even if it's very mild, I feel like serving this person who's a Vaishnava. That's good enough to start. Alright?
Yeah.
Someone else's hand with Kirti, and Mohan Viru, and then Panduranga Gopal.
You were saying that truth has to be palatable, at least in a day-to-day activity. How to keep it palatable?
How to keep it palatable? Speak it palatable.
How?
How? Well, generally we speak without thinking. We speak as a reactive reflex response to something. Correct? Correct. So even if we pause and think before we speak, we're giving palatable speech a very fair chance. Just think before we speak. What do we think about? We think about these things. How best can I say something such that it conveys my feelings to this person or persons without causing them harm in any way? Just thinking about that can make truth palatable. Then we have another idea of what is truth. We think truth means the way I see things. That's not truth. It's just, I'm seeing illusion this way, how are you seeing illusion? Truth means, am I communicating my experience of the situation? That is truth. It is true for me. It may not be true for someone else. In simpler language, it means not to blame someone or something for what's happening. That's palatable speech. And ultimately, can it be beneficial in some way? So somebody may be doing wrong, and you may, now the other side of it, someone may be actually doing wrong, but you want to tell them something. But saying that in such a way that they're actually benefited. When we did parenting seminar, the last one we did, about a few million years ago, it was about punishment. And we said punishing children actually distracts them and us from the actual issue. It causes complete destruction. We don't know what we're punishing for. The child becomes resentful towards the parents if the child doesn't understand. So we're not speaking truth. It's perfectly okay to tell the child or the person, I don't like this behavior. That's all right. It can be beneficial. But you're a sloth, you're like this. Mohan Leela Prabhu, can you pass the mic to Mohan Leela Prabhu? You have a question? Oh, then you have to be in line. Mohan Leela Prabhu is sitting way back there. He's been gone from Chicago so long we can't recognize him. Until he asks this question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, thank you very much for nicely explaining the aspect of compassion. And this is a question that I had for a long time. You nicely described the mind, body, and words, especially the prayer part. The one thing that I feel always is, we feel compassionate towards others. Especially, it's very easy to feel compassionate when there's something going on in their life, they're suffering or something. But otherwise, when everything is going well, we don't feel the same compassion towards them. And that creates a sense of block or expressing our compassion because they think they're happy with what's going on. And we don't feel the same urge to give out. So how can a person develop the real compassion?
We can only express something or give something when we have something. So our first order of business is to receive proper compassion. And as we are receiving, then we can give. So the first thing to check is, am I receiving from Krishna His mercy and compassion every minute, every day? Or am I only more receptive when I'm in trouble? So that's first order of business. Second is to recognize that even the so-called everything's okay in the material world is harmful. It's not okay. It's not okay in the grander scheme of things. That vision comes from hearing. Our hearing culture every day, when we hear transcendent sound vibration, it becomes part of our being, our nature. We cannot suddenly, I'm not saying you now, we cannot expect to become compassionate if we are not bathing ourselves in compassion every day. Because compassion is not something that is like a household article. I went to the shop and have compassion at home. It's a nature of the soul. So when we say sarvatma snapanam, unless we are bathing our consciousness in compassion every day, meaning by hearing from our acharyas every day, the sense of compassion for another person will not manifest. And it's when it manifests in trouble times, that is not compassion. Generally, it is an easy way, a cultured way of getting out of that trouble. And the third way is, it's a nectar of devotion, is compassion is a feature of friendly relationship with Krishna. And one who has a friendly relationship with Krishna is always thinking about Krishna's best interest. So our compassion will not awaken unless we have friendly feelings for Krishna, unless that relationship is front and center. Then it's not good situation, bad situation, it's every situation. The danger of a good situation is people become complacent. That's the danger. People become attached to that good situation. Okay. Will you accept it, please?
Thank you. Two questions.
Okay.
First one is, you said, Grostha means you're getting married, means you're taking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the times, all the get married without knowing the responsibility coming up.
Unfortunately, yes.
So, so how
He said we become married without taking responsibility or understanding that responsibility.
understanding the coming up responsibility. So how do we, now we are in the other side of the situation, so how do we deal with that?
Too late. Yes,
I need the answer.
it's never too late. No.
Please enlighten.
So what's the question?
Yeah, how do we now take that responsibility and how do we deal with that?
Yesterday, in our temple ISKCON, we read a letter from Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was explaining in English, Dilli ka laddu. He said, Dilli ka laddu, jo khaya, wo pachhtaya, jo nahi khaya, wo bhi pachhtaya. And he said, it's marriage is like that. One who's married is regretting. One who's not married is also regretting. When we take up something in life without understanding its response, two things are necessary. This is for the laddu tasters who are not married yet. First and foremost is to know what these responsibilities are. What is the role of a husband? What are the responsibilities of a husband? What is the role of a wife? What are the responsibilities of a wife? What are the roles and responsibilities of the partnership? First, education. Second is training. Training in these roles and responsibilities. Very, very important. One who's not trained, one who doesn't understand sufficiently what this stage of life is meant for, has a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble means not going back to Godhead in the ultimate issue. That's the thing. It may look very wonderful, house may be nicely decorated, or everything else may be in perfect order, so-called perfect order. But that would be a perfect Graha Mehdi lifestyle. And the third most important thing is proper example. Proper examples of Grahasthas to look up to. If that's not there, then there's no frame of reference. This is for those who are not yet, those who are regretting that they haven't tasted the laddu. Now, to those who are regretting because they have tasted the laddu. It's not that just because now we got married without knowing all these things, that we don't make any adjustment in that. It is always nice when we hear about these things that we begin. The Vedic aphorism is Athat Brahma Jigyasa. This when do we start? Whenever we hear about it, that's when we start. So now that we're hearing about it, we should reconsider what are my roles and responsibilities? What are my duties within the ashram? Am I making it an ashram? Am I taking care of my responsibilities? Grihastha ashram just doesn't mean that the husband is responsible and the wife is responsible. That's not Grihastha. Even Grahamedis are like that. Grihastha means they take their responsibilities up for Krishna's pleasure. That Krishna is being served. There are many excellent Grahamedis. They take their responsibility very carefully. They take care of their children very well. The house is all perfectly organized. The husband and wife love each other very much. Still they are Grahamedis. Understand? They may be celebrating 50 years, 50th anniversary. Still Grahamedis. Because Krishna is not there. So as grahasthas within a community, we should discuss these topics. We should discuss our difficulties. We should take guidance and share challenges and successes with each other and help each other, support each other. In isolation, we cannot do it. So now that we are on the other side, start somewhere. Not you. We start somewhere. Always to start.
Even if you put Krishna in between, sometimes you have conflicts.
Oh yeah.
Why the
Because Krishna may be in the center. Generally, when conflicts arise, Krishna may be in the center in a general sort of way. But at that moment of conflict, Krishna, we don't think of Krishna. We forget Krishna because then we are fighting, or the conflict is on the basis of false egos clashing. We forget Krishna. For example, in the house, there may be a whole room with the deities of Krishna. Everything that we are eating is offered to the deity of Krishna. Okay? We may be doing Aarati morning and evening. So in general, Krishna is at the center of everything. But at the point of conflict, we don't think, how can I speak so Krishna is pleased in the house? Or if the wife says something or the husband says something, sparks happen. Because we've forgotten Krishna at that moment. In that exchange, we've forgotten Krishna. Suppose our spiritual master or Srila Prabhupada we were in the room and the wife said something, oh, you forgot something. How would we respond? I thought yeah, Devi, thank you very much. Because by the presence of the Guru and Srila Prabhupada, our good behavior naturally manifests. Because of their mercy. Right? So it's like that. And if they're absent, it doesn't matter. So it's in the specific situation that Krishna is forgotten.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada, you have a question?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Second question.
Sorry. You talked about Grihastha and becoming. Most of the times when you get married, they say you are becoming a Grihastha. But the question is, in Bhagavatam, Kashyapa Muni, when he there in Payavata, he addresses Aditi as Grihometi. After a couple of verses, again Aditi addresses Kashyapa Muni as Grihometi. So how do we understand? Prabhupada explains in different ways in both verses.
I don't have the reference in front of me to say specifically. I can't remember. Can we have this particular question addressed after discussion? I'd like to look at it.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you. For me to immediately go to that verse, and that's what she said, I can't remember. About Grahastha life? Okay. Speak into the mic, please.
Then, Pandavas, Bhima especially, I heard that Bhima used to eat meat. Then, how come the great devotees of the Lord used to eat meat?
Someone asked, how come Garuda can have fish? So, according to, first of all, it is said that if someone wants to eat meat, they can kill their own animal. Bhima can do it. Kshatriyas are allowed by the codes of Vedas. They are allowed, not unlimitedly, but there are certain restrictions, but they are allowed. So there is concession for living beings to eat meat, but that doesn't mean, concession does not mean that's the way of life. Okay?
But Bhima used to not kill the animal.
Bhima is a Kshatriya, so it's allowed. As a king, he is not going to go to the forest and cook his own meat. But Kshatriya, he may be allowed. But Bhima also did. Why? Kshatriya code of conduct, they need the rajas in their body. So it's allowed. But it's not necessary that all have to be like that. Generally not like that.
Hare Krishna for such a crystal clear message.
No need to repeat it.
Prabhu, I have a question. We were talking about palatable speech. So, in a broader sense, different characteristics. Generally, in the society, it is very common known that different genders have different birthly they get these characteristics. Even there is a famous book like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus or something. So, such as like men are more logical, women are more emotional, different ways, different characteristics. So, from a spiritual perspective, is that a true conception?
What is a true conception?
Is that men and women will have different characteristics?
Of course.
So, the second question is, if that is true, then how we can get over that the not naturally given or inherited attribute to overcome that?
You don't have to overcome them, you have to learn how to use it in Krishna's service. And something cannot be used in Krishna's service, then we give that up. So Krishna uses fine speech, shyness as feminine qualities. But the idea is not that, well, I should say what the idea is. The idea is that by birth, everyone is born into ignorance. Janmanat jayate shudra. Samskarat bhavit vijaya. That by proper performance of proper rites of passage, one becomes cultured. So one may be born with all inherent qualities, but if that person is not cultured, the qualities don't shine. Like when you find a diamond when it's raw, you don't put the diamond on as jewelry in the raw. Although it's diamond, it has to go to the jeweler, and then it has to be polished, and all its facets need to be manifest for it to be fit jewelry. A diamond in the raw and diamond that's polished are different values. So we need culture, we need training, we need proper environment in which these qualities can manifest. Whatever we're born with, training is necessary. It's not true that we are born with harsh speech and that's all we will speak. It's not like that. Human beings are mentally cultured. Sarita? I can hear.
Again on the same topic, speech.
I don't know, that's such a...
I would like to, some people are like the quality of duplicity.
Say sweetly but stab you.
Yes. So, and behavior. With some people, they are very good and seeing the motive. They have some motive in mind, okay. This is, but I like this person, so I'll deal with them like this. And I don't like this person, so the behavior is even to tolerate it's kind of sometimes very troublesome. And sometimes some people treat somebody like so much and they speak something before them and behind they have a whole different of version, like completely different.
Correct.
So one question is like, maybe it's like a kid's question, like why do the people behave like that?
Well, you answered the question. No? You said duplicity.
How, like two things. One is how to fix that kind of attitude.
How to fix them? Punch them in the face.
The second question is the other person who is receiving it. They have some effect, maybe, and the lot of things are going in mind. Oh, why these people are? I saw this person speaking to him very nicely, and I saw him speaking behind him something very badly. Now, how do, as a person myself, how to digest that, or not contemplate on those thoughts?
Well, depends on your relationship with that person. If let's say, suppose the person is your own child, suppose, how you respond to that will be different from if it is some other person that you don't have a relationship with, or the responsibility for. Okay? If it is someone you have responsibility for, how you address it would be to talk about it, to bring it to their attention. And for someone you don't have responsibility for, two things. One is, that's between them and Krishna will take care of it at his own sweet time and by his own sweet will. As far as I am recognizing this, now let me look inside and see, do I do like that? And if I do like that, then let me not do something like that. And if I don't do like that, Krishna's mercy, please protect me that I never become like that. But fixing others is not our responsibility.
My more question was like
how to digest it. That's why I just explained.
Even digest is kind of it stays sometime and goes away, but mind keep on that again it comes back. That coming back time, maybe like mind is thinking, oh they did like this, this is bad. Even my mind is polluted with that. So how do I?
That's because we are very busy looking at what is wrong outside. Our cultivation is to look within. Or another is to look for the good qualities that they have. We decide whether the mind should be like a fly or like a honeybee. The bee is glorified because the bee extracts essences. And the fly sits on a pile of trash. You ask the fly, please sit on the lotus flowers, they're boring. Tell me where's the juicy gossip. So it's an indicator of the quality of our mind. And that's therefore it's our work to purify our mind. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told that all devotees must have a broom and a pair of shoes at home. You know that one? In the morning, beat the mind with a broom. Only our mind. Any other question? Yeah, our gentleman here. I had all intentions of finishing the seminar today, but it doesn't look like that. I haven't even done no gambling and no intoxication yet.
Yeah.
What is your name?
Bharat Kokhani.
Bharat, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I am perfectly agree and I understand that if we polish the raw diamond, then only it shines. If we don't polish, but still it is diamond. And even we polish a stone, whatever we do, it can never shine like a diamond. So the basic characteristic of the core is as important as culturing from the outside to get it shine. And I have seen, this is my learning at my age, that very well educated people with all access of all the knowledge artifacts, turns out to be a very poor sound, and the people who never got an opportunity to go even school and not having any access of any knowledge artifacts, but still they are great souls. So this is kind of my small observations about whatever people I know. How to deal with this situation as a whole society, that if somebody is not having that core diamond kind of material, what can we do with that?
So let me complete the vision because it's a little biased. There are many educated people who behave like animals. There are really uneducated persons who are very, very good-hearted. There are very educated persons who are very good-hearted. There are really not uneducated persons who behave like animals. All varieties exist. In every living entity, in the heart of every living entity, whether in the human species, animal, aquatics, insect, doesn't matter. In the heart of every living entity is pure love of God, but in a dormant condition. That's the diamond in the raw. It's not this quality, that quality. It's the diamond in the raw. It's love for God, because we're parts of God. It's there. It takes culture, environment, and a lot of time for that to manifest. There are certain features that don't allow it to manifest. And that is the mode of ignorance and passion. And some will remain in the mode of ignorance and passion because they want to. And as long as they want to remain in mode of ignorance and passion, it doesn't matter what you do, it will not manifest. But it is there in a dormant condition. It is there. It takes a very pure person. So you ask what's the solution? It takes very pure persons to extract that. And there's many situations in history where that has happened. Mrigari the hunter, Ratnakar the dacoit became Valmiki, Jagai and Madhai became great devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Like that. Vritrasura was in the demon's body, was but Mahabhagavata. It takes two things. One is the association of pure persons, and the second is that person receiving that association carefully. These two things must be there. So how we can help? We should become pure. Anything we want to do with the world, the first order of business is for ourselves to become pure. We cannot help the world when we ourselves are not pure. The best way to help the world is for us to become pure. Okay, Bharat?
Yeah.
So why don't
The
you...
first step to do is like changing ourselves and
Correct.
trying to become.
So we invite you to come and inspire us and be inspired by us to become pure. Together. Then we can benefit others. Oh, Balaram was
Thank you very much for enlightening us. My request is to enlighten frequently. The reason is we hear, even Maharaj comes, we also say, as Prabhu said, oh Prabhu, this is Maharaj is very crystal clear. The message is very nice. But what happens today we hear, tomorrow we practice, in due course it will fade again. So, but you also give the solution, the broom and the shoes, right? But sometimes what happens when people like traveling, there's no time, something happens.
They're charging for, you have to take off your shoes before you receive them.
So what happens
Broom is not allowed.
Yeah, I know, but the deviation is obvious because it's like material world. The moment you get out of the temple, there are a lot of things happens. So this is really razor sharp edge is always there on my head. Anytime anything may happen. Is there any tips?
Are you married?
Once. Here's some tips so that we can always remember this. Of course, it's a purifying process, it takes time, but still.
My answer is simple, and sometimes simple answers. I hope you like it. Something that is important in life must be done every day. If there is something that we find valuable, then it must be done every day. So if we are finding hearing valuable, then it must be done every day. Chanting valuable must be done every day. And every day it must be applied. It is described that a Brahmana who does not apply his knowledge, that knowledge vanishes or leaks away. So, hearing, chanting, application. Every day. Then this inspiration stays alive. There's a more important thing in all of this is, for who are we doing this? If that's not clear, or not in your case, but if generally that's not clear, then there's no inspiration for applying. Why should I apply? There is a relationship with Guru, relationship with Krishna. That is why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're supposed to be doing what we're doing. That relationship is very important to consider in all our activities. Then that inspiration will be there. Otherwise the inspiration is short-lived. We want our lives to improve. The responsibility is in our hands. And that's what we take seriously. Any other question? Shall we talk about no intoxication? Can start. Okay. The third pillar is austerity. And we maintain austerity by the activities of, or the principles of no intoxication. So abstinence is a strength, it's a virtue. Intoxication means drinking of certain substances that alter our consciousness, that alter or dull our consciousness, such as alcohol or other addictive substances, coffee, tea. Because addiction removes an ability for a person to say no. A person becomes so habituated, so driven by that habit that they cannot say no. In fact, they will pursue that addiction. If I don't have my caffeine in the morning, I just cannot work my day. My eyes cannot focus without caffeine. Not mine, but that's how people say it. My eyes cannot focus, period. That's So people need. And austerity, there are two categories of austerities. Every human being is performing austerities. Anyone here who thinks is not performing any austerity? Everyone is. Any person who takes on responsibility on their shoulder, they are performing austerity. There are two categories of austerities. One is called forced austerity, and the second is voluntary austerity. Forced austerity in Sanskrit is not in Sanskrit. In our Vedic context, is called tapatraya. And voluntary austerity is called tapasya. The common in both is the word tapa. The word tapa means to burn. So whether we are forced into burning, we voluntarily take on some difficulty. So tapatraya, three types of burning or difficulty. They are called adhyatmika klesha. This is forced upon us. Difficulties or miseries due to our own body and mind. Back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, whatever. There's a list of things. Blood pressure, diabetes, something. Or with the mind. Very happy today, very upset today, very sad today, very jovial, whatever. Then there is Adi Bhautika Klesha, difficulty due to another's body and mind, such as being married. Someone else's body and mind bothers us. Somebody had told me that this is how you can describe married life. First, engagement ring. Then wedding ring. After that, suffer ring. So there is suffering due to another's body and mind. The dog, the mosquito, the parasite in the stomach, the neighbor, whoever. This is another entity. And the third is called Adi Daivika Klesha. Suffering because of the higher personalities. Excessive cold, excessive rain, excessive heat, drought, famine, pestilence, etc. And we are harassed by any one or more of these at all times. And life in general is full of austerity. We're doing things that are really difficult. Long commute, long hours of work, difficult work, nasty boss, etc. There was a bumper sticker. I owe, therefore to work I go. People go because they have to pay off their bills, pay off their loans. So as we take on difficulty, it's there. Sitting in traffic, all of that I want to describe. Then there is voluntary acceptance of difficulty for fulfillment of responsibility. This is called tapasya. I voluntarily take up certain difficulties. And it's described that tapatraya burns us in such a way that we act in ways to counteract the tapatraya, and we do even more foolish things. Because we are operating in a realm of avidya. Like for example, how many of you know swimming? Okay. Those who don't know swimming, if they are in deep waters, what do? and they realize they're in deep water, they hit their arms and legs really frantically. And what happens by that? You lose breath, and then you drown. There's danger in drowning. Those who know swimming, as soon as they know they're in deep waters, the first thing to do is, it's called something. Treading, thank you. Just gently hit your arms and this is not swimming lesson. And hold your breath. If nothing, just hold your breath and float. Gather energy before you do anything else. Desperation. So we do things that are against our own benefit because of desperation, because of tapatraya. So tapasya, there's a verse from the Bhagavatam 5th canto. This is Lord Rishabhadev's instruction. It says, Nayam deho deha bhajan loke kashtan kaman arhate vid bhujamye tapo divyam putraka yena satyam shuddhet yasmat brahma saukhyam anantam. By tapatraya, we get more suffering. By tapasya, he says, you get many benefits. First he says, shuddhet. Shuddhet means one becomes purified, one becomes clean by voluntarily taking up austerity. Shuddhet. He says, second is Brahma Saukhyam. You will experience transcendental happiness. And this transcendental happiness has a characteristic, Ananta. It does not end. So to experience transcendental happiness, one must take on the austerity of not giving in to the pushings of the body and the mind. The pushings of the body and the mind are called Vegas. And it's the capital of Nevada, Las Vegas. There are all 6 pushings are perfectly available there. Rupa Goswami tells us what those 6 pushings are. Vacho Vegam, the urge to speak something. Manasa Krodha Vegam, the urges of the mind and anger. Jivha Vegam, the urge of the tongue. Udara Upasta Vegam, the urge of the belly and the genitals. And he says, Etan Vegam Yu Vishaheta. One who can tolerate these urges, such a person is called Dhira. So the word Dhira means sober, or actually tolerating. One must learn to tolerate. Otherwise, just giving in, one cannot go anywhere just because we're giving in to every urge that comes up. The urge to speak is so intense. We feel this urge, we must say something. 2 people are standing and talking, we come in, they are talking, we can't keep quiet, we have to say something. The urge to speak is so strong. Facebook is full of the urge to speak. Vacho Vegam, for example. Then Manasa Krodha Vegam, the urges of the mind. Constantly so many desires manifest and we feel we have to fulfill them or at least pursue those desires. The urge of the mind that they have to be followed through. Oh, I must. Some thought came, it's not like we even consider, should I do it or not? Urge of the tongue. I feel like eating something chakpata, right? Immediately go follow it up. And the urge of the belly, it is described that for a glutton, the tongue and stomach don't communicate with each other. The tongue keeps saying, variety, 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 and the stomach keeps saying, more, anyo, even more, even more, even more. They don't talk to each other. They're like mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. And then Upasta Vegam, the urge of the genitals. Our Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes that the tongue, belly and genitals are in a straight line. And discrepancy in eating will manifest as discrepancy in genital use or misuse. So it's important to control the tongue in what we eat, what is the quality of food that goes into the mouth. And we talked in no meat eating that the quality of food that must go in is Krishna Prasadam, because by Krishna Prasadam the tongue's agitation becomes quietened. And actually the belly and genitals also become quietened. So one who does not perform austerity, such a person cannot access greater pleasures of life. The greater pleasure is called Brahma Saukhya, the happiness that exists on the spiritual platform. And therefore we see that great persons who are very, very satisfied in themselves, they don't go after material pleasures. They are called Atma Ramas. Atma Arama. One who is fully satisfied in the self. In the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita purport, Prabhupada gives the definition of the word Rama. Rama means the source of, the reservoir of all pleasure. Ramante yogino anante satyananda chidatmani iti Rama pade nasau param brahma avidiyate. That this word Rama, iti Rama pada asau, this word Rama is described as Param Brahma Avidiyate. The Supreme Personality is known by the word Rama because great yogis take great pleasure. Ramante, yogino, anante. They experience unlimited happiness in this word Rama. Because the word Rama means pleasure. The reservoir of all pleasure. So great yogis or spiritualists, where they take pleasure and where the materialists take pleasure are mutually exclusive places. You know the story of Sanatana Goswami. There was a person who was a devotee of Lord Shiva. And one day Lord Shiva appeared to him in his dream and he said, go to Vrindavan. Near Govardhan Hill, there is this place called Manasi Ganga. I said, by the banks of Manasi Ganga is Sanatana Goswami. You go to him and you ask him to give you the greatest gift of by which you become very happy. I said, oh, looks like he has something. So he went to Sanatana Goswami and he saw Sanatana Goswami sitting in a loincloth under a tree, just looking so peaceful and happy. So I said, oh, he doesn't have like a nice house, a nice furniture, car. I heard you have a great treasure. There's a particular stone called the Chintamani stone. That if you touch anything with the Chintamani stone, it turns to gold. It's called a touchstone. So Sanatana Goswami said, yes, I do have that touchstone. May I please have that touchstone from you? Lord Shiva said that you will be very kind by giving it to me. So Sanatana Goswami pointed to a garbage dump and said, it's in that garbage dump, you can take it. So the man went quickly and rummaged through the garbage pile and found the touchstone. Tested it out, a few things turned to gold. He said, authentic. And then he went, thanked Sanatana Goswami, and he went away. A few minutes later, he wondered, if Sanatana Goswami has a touchstone that turns everything into gold, I didn't see any gold around him. He was sitting in a loincloth under a tree, looked very satisfied. Maybe he has something greater than this, because this was in the garbage pile. Actually, what you don't think is important is in the garbage pile. He said, why did you put this in the garbage pile? Maybe he has something else. That's by which he is happier. I want that one. So he went back to Sanatana Goswami. And he said, something's wrong. Tell me what it is. You have something more valuable. I want that. So Sanatana Goswami said, throw that stone into the river. I'll tell you what it is and I'll give it to you. So this is the moment of truth, right? And what if he says he has something else? So somehow he said, Sanatana Goswami, Lord Shiva told me to go to Sanatana Goswami. So he threw it. And Sanatana Goswami said, what I have is the Hare Krishna mantra. And by chanting it, I'm totally happy. The man jumped back into the river. No, he said, why are you wasting that? He accepted the Hare Krishna mantra. He said, oh, that's the pleasure that comes by being in relationship with Krishna is far more superior than something material. To get that, one has to perform voluntarily some austerity. In austerity, people think, oh, austerity means I have to stand on a mountain on my hands raised. Nothing like that. Austerity means to tolerate and not give in to the urges that come. And we may think, when will these urges go away? They don't. As long as we have a human body, as long as we have a material body and mind, these are constantly there. So, something to meditate on, to gain strength, is a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 70. Krishna says, Apuryamanam achalam pratishtam. It describes that an ocean is constantly fed by unlimited rivers flowing into it. But the ocean always remains within its shore. So we may also have multiple inputs. We have 5 senses and they're constantly giving us inputs, plus the mind. But the person is meant to be, and which person? It's called Sthita Pragya person. Persons whose consciousness is fixed. Such a person does not give in very easily. So we should not give in. Just because the urge is there, we shouldn't give in. This austerity is very important. And the opposite of what weakens our austerity is intoxication. Intoxication means giving in. And I don't have time today, but I will say something to think about. That the real intoxication, the real intoxicant is, guesses? Raise your hand. Gossip? No. No. Okay, that's nice. But material intoxicant, that is the real intoxicant. It's a different context. Right? Pride. Thank you. Pride is the worst intoxicant. It's called mother. Madness. Because pride manifests into madness. And to avoid this means one should avoid pride. So when we take our vows in front of the spiritual master, I will not engage in no intoxication. We're saying in front of Krishna, I will not be intoxicated by pride. And 2 minutes later, what a wonderful name I got. Immediately, pride kicks in. So I'll end with a nice joke. It's a very nice exchange with Srila Prabhupada. There was a devotee who took initiation from Srila Prabhupada in the very early 70s. Prabhupada, on the day of initiation, called him. And when he came, he asked him what are the 4 regulative principles. He said what those are. And Prabhupada said, how many rounds you will chant? 16. All right. Your name is... And looked at the devotee and said, what is his name? So his legal name was Hans Kari, which is from Germany. Prabhupada said Hamsaduta Adhikari. And said his Hans is also there, Kari is also included. Hans Kari, Hamsaduta Adhikari. Everyone said Haribol, Haribol, and nobody had ever heard the name Hamsaduta. So he asked Prabhupada, what is the name Hamsaduta? So Prabhupada said, what's your name? Hans Kari. So Hamsaduta Adhikari, and then answered the question. So he still wanted to know what the meaning of his name is. So he asked again, Srila Prabhupada, so he wanted to ask differently. So he asked, Prabhupada, who is Hamsaduta? Prabhupada said, you are. So he let some time pass. And then he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, where can I find the name Hamsaduta? Prabhupada said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And left it like that. Bhagavatam is 12 cantos, 18,000 verses. It said in the Bhagavatam, and left him like that. Prabhupada, the point was, one cannot trick the spiritual master. And he was trying to extract from Prabhupada something that Prabhupada was not ready to let him have. Anyway, who is Hamsaduta? In case you still... There is an anthology, or actually a collection of verses, a drama written by Rupa Goswami. And it is expression of Srimati Radharani's message to Krishna. And she gives it to a swan who takes it to Krishna. So the swan works as a duta, messenger. And because he's Hamsa Duta, taking the carrier of Radharani's message to Krishna. This is a play written by Rupa Goswami. Okay, until I get some indication that altar is ready for any questions about intoxication, about no intoxication.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Every day. The life is with, somehow or other we are dealing with the products mixed with alcohol, something like, hand sanitizers or any healthcare products. If you really pay attention to the ingredients.
Are you getting intoxicated by hand sanitizer?
Should we stay away from even those sort of stuff just because it has an alcohol? And in case of medicine, you go and get some, and then you can see omega-3, and it's a byproduct of some animal, As a practicing devotee, what should we do with all of those stuff?
If you can find something that is substitutable without animal products, then that's what we go for. But if it is some important medicine that you have to take and it's some disease that cannot be cured without it, then you have to be practical. But if hand sanitizer is alcohol, oh no, intoxication. It's not like